Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And while Mike Seaver presented at the Goldman Sachs conference, Dow Draper of T-Mobile's also presented at the CCA's annual convention, and his presentation was just about their expansion into rural United States, that they have a massive plan to get into the market share and get them more noticed in rural America. Now, if most of you have been following the channel, we have an idea of what that plan is. They want to add 10,000 new sites, and about 90% of those 10,000 will go and will be placed in rural United States as a form of expansion for T-Mobile's network. Now, a lot of you still have questions, and I understand. I get questions all day long. Is the CapEx enough? And that's the biggest question. So they're doing 12 billion this year, 12 billion next year, and then it drops to 9 billion. So a lot are concerned as to, is that enough money even to go deploy all these sites in the rural environment? And it doesn't sound like a lot, but just given T-Mobile's history, they'll make it a lot. So what I mean by that is they have most of their fair share they have gained in the top 100 markets, which is more of the urban suburban environment. That's where they gained most of their share. And they have been the growth story during LTE. They had accelerated growth, and they needed that growth to get to fair share. Without that growth, they wouldn't have never gotten to fair share. Now they got fair share. Sprint is no longer there for them to pull from. Now they have to go against prepaid, MVNO, Verizon, and AT&T. Now that growth does not look as strong. That's how they're positioned. They are a value growth story. That's who T-Mobile is. That's their MO. That's their brand. That's what it's centered around. Now, where did they get that growth from? Verizon and AT&T are competing on phone promos in a big way to pull from the switcher pool. And that switcher pool during the pandemic got smaller, and we saw the effects of that in Q2. T-Mobile didn't grow as big. AT&T outgrew them. I don't think that was a coincidence. I think there's some bigger momentum brewing, and T-Mobile knows it. That's why, as part of the merger, they needed to get into rural America. Why did they need to do that? Because they need to keep their growth and the numbers going. And the only way for them to accelerate that kind of growth again is to get into a business segment that you've never competed in. They never really competed in rural. If they now get into that segment, they should be able to maintain their growth, given still growing in the urban environment, but not as much as they used to. And now you add in more suburban and suburban and rural growth, you'll get there. You'll get back to those numbers that you're used to posting and being that leader. But if they don't get there, and I think we'll see some of that when they report Q3 numbers, if it takes you a while to get there, we will still likely see a bit of a slowdown on their quarterly numbers. And AT&T may still outgrow them for a couple of quarters to come, until they can get their footing into the rural coverage. That's essentially what that depends on. Before they deploy additional retail distribution or innovative retail distribution, they have to get the coverage there. And in a lot of those areas where they simply have no coverage, it makes no sense, of course, to add any distribution. So first, they have to touch the rural United States with their coverage, with their network. That's the product. They have to first do that. And the way they get there, I think, and T-Mobile has done this in the past, so this is nothing new. At some point, they're going to start starving the urban environment, so to speak. So the CapEx is going to shift more towards rural. And I think it'll be like a 70-30, 80-20 split, where 70-80% of the money goes to rural, and then 20 to 30% of that money, capex, goes to the urban environment. But that's, of course, first they have to finish the integration. So right now the split is likely upside down. 70 to 80% goes to urban, and the 20-30% goes to rural. So we will see several thousand sites go up this year and next. But to accelerate that even more, we have to see that capex flip. That's the only way they're going to be able to do it. They're not spending enough to do 50-50 or 60-40. They're not spending enough capex to do that. That's very clear. So at some point, we're going to see that capex flip, as I mentioned, and then we're going to see an acceleration in rural. And then in the urban environment, it is not a good idea to starve the urban environment, but they've done it during the Band 71, N71 rollout. The capex went just towards that. I remember 2018, 2019, even 2020, not much infrastructure ads in my market. They were just heavily involved, aggressively involved in just rolling out that N71 panel, the bigger panel. And they were doing that nationwide. So again, they are, they have been known to do that, to where they focus that capex on just one thing. Now, is that good or bad? That remains to be seen. But I have an idea of them going in front of the board of investors and saying, or analysts even, and saying, look, we have a ton of capacity now in the urban environment that we need to fill first. And that's why they may be so ultra aggressive trying to get more spectrum. So they want to participate in 108, auction 108, auction 110. They just got more C-band spectrum as well, on top of all the band and N41 that they got from Sprint. So they will likely, honestly, the way I see it happening, they will honestly deploy C-band as quick as they can as well, get all the spectrum out there on the sites, and that way they can say, look, we have a massive amount of capacity to fill. We need MVNO players on board on our network. We need home internet customers, or we can add a ton of home internet customers. We can add more MVNO players and make our annual revenue that way without having to deploy all these millimeter wave nodes and all these other sites. They'll say our density is fine and our capacity is fine, to where we can now focus on rural United States. So again, it'll be a very interesting few years coming up to really see T-Mobile's network expand. I've been looking at previous coverage maps from like 2016, 2017, 2018, comparing them to now, and not much really is moving on their coverage map. It's very, very little growth on that map. So their network hasn't gotten any bigger than what it used to be. Whereas Verizon, comparing them from 2016, 2017 to now, Verizon's has gotten much denser and much, much bigger. Same with AT&T. So let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. Again, another great article from RCR Wireless. I will leave it in the description down below so you guys can check that out. Again, upwards of 10,000 sites being deployed in rural environments. Several thousand per NEV array are going up now. They're being deployed. So I'm sure several more thousand will go up next year, and we will see how they perform when they're. I anticipate their growth on a quarterly basis to kick up again into the millions once they have more rural coverage, and that's where likely most of their growth will come from. And I think they will disclose that at the quarterly earnings. Just like they did in Q2, they said 1/3 of our activations came from the rural environment. So again, leave all your comments in the comment section down below. If you are new to the channel, or you have been on the channel and you have not yet liked, shared, subscribed, make sure you do so. Hit that notification bell so you are notified when I do upload content. Make sure to follow my social media outlets for more updates and interactions. Thanks again for watching. This is Tyrone with Tech Life. I will see you in the next one. Peace.